Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. We are here to celebrate the 2021 legislative session that concluded on Tuesday. You know, a year ago, at the end of session, I said sometimes we make history and sometimes history makes us. And last year, history definitely made us. We did the best we could with a once-in-a-100-year pandemic, with all the information that we had. But looking back on this past session, we clearly made history. We told the voters in November what we wanted to do. We laid out a plan at the beginning of session that we were going to lower people's health care costs, that we were going to get a transportation package once in a generation across the finish line, that we were going to help build back an economy that left no one behind and helped respond to the pandemic that had impacted our state in different ways in different regions of the state, and we delivered on all of that. I truly am so proud at the work that we have done, and we delivered on the promises that the Coloradans entrusted in us, and that is something that I can't say was always something that we did at the end of sessions. The fact that we were able to lower the cost of health insurance and prescription drugs, that we reformed our tax code to help build an economy that, again, leaves no one behind, that we improved our early childhood system, and yes, we finally did what so many other speakers said they were going to do, which was to get that transportation funding package across the finish line, is really historic. And I'm really so proud of the fact that I was a small part of it, along with the people behind me. The fact that we collaborated together, that we led together, really is what the people of Colorado expect from their elected officials. This was an ambitious session. We demonstrated that Coloradans can continue to trust Democrats on what they say they're going to do, and that they are going to get it done when we have the chance. And I am so proud to introduce and bring up somebody who I work so closely with, who we wouldn't have been so successful without, President Leroy Garcia.
Thank you, Speaker Garnett. Let me also echo that the collaboration between the Senate and the House this year was absolutely amazing, and it's what has allowed us to be so successful. Look, as lawmakers, we are sent to the Capitol to do one job, and that's to build back a better future for Coloradans. In times of crisis, that responsibility becomes even greater. And over the last 18 months, the pandemic has underscored existing problems in our communities and created new challenges for us simply that had to be addressed. And while the 2020 legislative session ended with many accomplishments that we were proud of, we knew that our work was far from being over. Coloradans across the state were still mourning the loss of their loved ones, their jobs, and the life that they once lived pre-pandemic. That is why we showed up with the 2021 legislative session ready with ambitious goals, prepared to take action in order to meet the urgency of this moment. Our agenda wasn't a wish list, but rather a to-do list given to us by our constituents who were counting on us to help them immediately. We made good on the promises to send direct relief to struggling businesses and families by allocating money for housing, childcare, and creating funding programs to help small businesses keep their doors open. But this session was much more than just a few of those things. It was about keeping people's head above water and helping them get back on track. Thanks to the bold action of our partners at the federal level, Colorado was afforded a once-in-a-generation opportunity through the $4 billion plan to help our future that we counted on. A future with the strong schools, good-paying jobs, safe and secure transportation systems, and so much more. Over the course of just a few months, we acted boldly and efficiently to not just protect Coloradans from the effects of the global crisis, but actually transform every industry and every corner of this state to a more prosperous, secure, and equitable Colorado. This session has been historic in terms of the value of our progress and the enormity of our investments, yet we adjourn knowing that our work is never finished. I'm looking forward to using the rest of this year to spend time with friends, family, and others to learn more about what we can do to ensure that next year, as we prepare to come back, that we are even more successful. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, good friend, the Majority Leader from Pueblo, Majority Leader Escar.
They gave me a stool this time. I'm excited. Good afternoon. This session was about belief. It was about hope. In the face of enormous difficulty, we marched forward with the conviction that we can and must work to create a more prosperous, a more equitable, a more fair Colorado. We saw the devastation left by COVID and decided that it wouldn't just be enough to rebuild our state to the place where it was before the pandemic hit. But we needed to go further. Think bigger, think bolder. We delivered a long overdue promise and put the finishing touches on promises years in the making. We reacted nimbly and efficiently to the demands of the day while navigating an unprecedented crisis. The result was a session that will be remembered for decades as one of the most ambitious and productive in recent memory. This year we made investments and reforms that will create a more prosperous Colorado for decades to come. Our ambitious state stimulus package invested in working families, job creation, and small business support. Our state budget made a massive investment in higher education, and our policies will make it easier for Coloradans of every background to access the world-class Colorado education that will set them up for success. We invested in rural Colorado. We stood up program after program to help workers in every single corner of this state. We invested $15 million to help workers who lost their jobs or wages enter and complete skills training programs that will provide them the tools they need to fill good jobs. We directed $75 million to workforce development councils all across Colorado to help train the workforce for the future in that region. We also significantly expanded the Colorado Opportunity Scholarship Initiative, providing the program with an additional $50 million to increase opportunities for workers and students. Importantly, we funded the Office of Just Transition to the tune of $15 million, which will help communities transitioning from coal-based economies. We know this is a drop in the bucket, but we also know it's a very substantial beginning to transition. We passed bills to make healthcare more affordable and lower the cost of prescription drugs. We tackled one of the thorniest and most pressing issues in Colorado and finally fixed our state's long-standing transportation funding woes. We prepared our state for the challenges of the future by unrigging a tax code and made significant investments in drought preparedness and wildlife mitigation. We helped forge the Colorado comeback by supporting small businesses, out-of-work Coloradans, and families across the state. I'm excited to go home to Pueblo to spend time with my wife and welcome the newest member of our family. I'll go home knowing that the work we did this session will make life better for my future child and for every Coloradan with every background across the state. It was an exciting year, and part of that success was due as well to my colleague, Majority Leader Steve Fenberg from the Senate.
Thank you, Majority Leader Escar. At the risk of echoing everything that has just been said, I do want to say a few words about what we just went through and what I believe we did for the state of Colorado. This truly was one of the most productive and consequential legislative sessions in state history. We returned in January with an ambitious to-do list, and against all odds, we pretty much got the job done. And I'm so proud to stand with everyone here, with the folks that we serve with every single day upstairs across the state to celebrate each and every accomplishment coming out of this session. And there were a lot. We took on everything from urgent small business relief, housing assistance, to more long-term visions, such as landmark transportation legislation and gun violence prevention measures. Everything from lowering the cost of healthcare to making continued progress on combating climate change and preserving public lands for future generations. Our work this session was responsive to both today's needs and tomorrow's prosperity. Together, we tackled the final months of a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, and we worked to pull Colorado out of a once-in-a-lifetime economic crisis. And we were tasked with spending a once-in-a-lifetime package of federal funding. I don't know about you guys, but these once-in-a-lifetimes are getting a little old, maybe feeling a little routine, but that's what leadership is about. When once-in-a-lifetimes happen, we have to step up to the plate. That's what our job is. That's why we are here. We have to roll up our sleeves, get us through these once-in-a-lifetimes for the people of Colorado whenever and however often they may come. Ever since that fateful day last March, when I remember being with all of the leaders that are here today, and we made that impossible decision to suspend the legislative session for an extended recess that we really didn't know how long it was going to happen. We knew the road ahead would be a challenge. But we also knew, maybe we didn't know it consciously at that moment, but we knew in one way in our hearts that this was also an opportunity to build back to a Colorado that is more just, more equitable than before. And in that pursuit, we have emerged stronger as individuals and as a state. The hard work from so many has resulted in progress that is systemic, bold, and I think very lasting. We did a lot of good for the people of Colorado. And even with the hard work that still lies ahead, I believe we're at the end of a chapter in our ongoing recovery story. I believe we're finally turning the page on this dark period of America and Colorado's history. And I believe looking back, we will view this as a moment in history whose purpose was to push us forward towards a better future for the state. We are well on our way to building that future because of our accomplishments this legislative session, but of course the work continues, and we know the job of our governor really just begins now to start implementing all of the great bills that we are putting on his desk. So I would like to introduce our good friend, the governor of the state of Colorado, Jared Polis.
You know what? Thanks to our legislative leaders, to Speaker Garnett, to Senate President Garcia, Majority Leader Fenberg, Majority Leader Escar, we're finally going to fix the damn roads here in Colorado. It's about time. Congratulations. Politics ain't easy. Politics is the art of the possible. And part of the challenge on that particular issue is everybody had a different idea about how to do it. But what true leadership was able to do is bring together a diverse coalition with mayors and commissioners and transit-oriented folks and environmentalists and consumer advocates, and finally solve an issue that if directly affects our quality of life with hours lost in traffic. It's not only the economic cost of $600 or $700 per person per year, but how do you put a price on missing your kid's soccer game or not being home in time for dinner? But it's also about our economic competitiveness as a state. We need to compete with Utah. We need to compete with Nebraska. Finally, we'll have a safer, faster network of roads and transit opportunities that will help move Colorado forward. The other big issue I applaud the legislature on is saving people money in so many different ways and so many different bills, whether it's in healthcare with the Colorado option, prescription drug affordability board, a bill for prescription drug importation from more countries than just Canada, and providing tax relief to so many Coloradans. There's tens of thousands of Colorado small businesses that won't even need to file the business personal property tax, not just saving them the money they would have paid on any assets under $50,000, but saving them the time and effort of making that filing, lowering the residential assessment rate for homeowners, and just as importantly, making sure that no homeowner in Colorado is priced out of their own home because of appreciation and value, with the ability to defer any increase above 4% and not have to pay that, because people shouldn't be forced out of their own home just because their home value is going up. I was excited to see the legislature step up in a smart way and take advantage of some changes that other states had done to avoid federal tax liability for small companies under SALT. This can save small Colorado businesses hundreds of millions of dollars. Effectively, they'll be able to act like a C Corp for purposes of taking state and local tax deductions without jeopardizing the LLC or S Corp status. That sounds like mumbo jumbo to everybody except for Ed. But it is really important because when you look at small businesses, they mostly are S Corps and LLCs, small and mid-sized businesses. Most large businesses, almost all of them are C Corps already. So we want to make sure that individual businesses, LLCs, S Corps are able to take advantage. And Coloradans shouldn't pay more than people in other states to the federal government. And that doesn't cost the state government at all. There's an implementation cost. I think it might actually increase revenue on the other end, but it's a negligible impact to the state government. So on issue after issue, I think this legislature has heard you. Living in Colorado is wonderful. How do we make it more wonderful? Reduce traffic, save us money. Just this morning, I was at Trinidad State College in Trinidad for the first time. Because last time I was there, it was Trinidad State Junior College, but now it's Trinidad State College. And we were with Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and we were just really excited, as are Coloradans who love the outdoors across the state, to thank the Senator Fenberg's effort at a strong bipartisan bill. Annual park passes, instead of costing $80, are going to cost under $30 for Colorado families, saving $50 on annual park passes to enjoy our great outdoors, whether it's Lake Pueblo or Chatfield Reservoir, Golden Gate, or any of our other beautiful state parks, including our newest park at Fisher Peak. So I want to congratulate the legislators on one of the most productive and practical sessions, meeting everyday Coloradans where they are, making life a little bit better, a little bit easier, a little bit more affordable, and making sure that we maintain the quality of life that keeps Colorado special. We're happy to take questions.
Real quick before we get into questions, Marianne, I know you're eager. I do want to acknowledge our Lieutenant Governor, Diane Primavera, who has done an incredible amount of work to accomplish the healthcare agenda and to save people money.
This question is for the governor. Last year, Governor, you sent a letter to the legislature stating very unequivocally you did not want any more mandates for health insurance, and you also wanted an actuarial analysis bill to help make those determinations. This year, the Senate Democrats put a placeholder amendment on the actuarial analysis bill, ensuring it would not pass, and you've got 6 mandates sitting on your desk. Are you going to hold to that from last year, or have you changed your mind?
So first of all, I am disappointed that we don't have a process in place yet. We'll work on this next session for figuring out the cost of insurance mandates to ratepayers. It doesn't mean that they're bad or good, but just like we do a fiscal note on a bill, because we simply couldn't implement it otherwise, we need to have an equivalent process, and I think that we can figure that out. I really do. And I'd have to look at what my letter was, but certainly what I've said to sponsors, to the general public when asked, is that my bottom line is saving people money on healthcare. And because we got a really ambitious agenda through, thanks to the Lieutenant Governor, our legislative sponsors, Colorado option, 15% in 3 years, PDAB, which is really exciting because Colorado will be able to do what the VA already does in our own country. People talk about how other countries do this. We actually do it in the United States of America. VA negotiates for prescription drugs. As a result, they're paying a third, 40% less for the exact same prescription drug. Colorado should be able to do the same importation from countries other than Canada. So we've got those big things. So we are going to absolutely be open to some of these mandates because they are rounding errors and small amounts compared to the great savings from the big programs. We would not have been open to them had the major savings programs not passed, but because those passed, we will look at each of those individually. We will then also, again, send a message to the legislature that we need an actuarial process if they want to do any more. But because we're all in such a good mood, because we're saving people money on health care, we do think that some of that money that we save can go to expanding the suite of services in a small but thoughtful way. While most of it needs to accrue to the savings of people's pocketbooks.
this also is for the governor. I know, Governor, you famously said this year that you had problems with parts of SB 200 because it gave near dictatorial powers to an elected official. I know that people have said the same thing about several bills involving powers for the insurance commissioner, from the Colorado option that you mentioned to SB 169, which digs into the algorithms of insurance data, make sure it's not discriminating against people. Are you worried at all about some of the bills giving powers to him or to other officials?
So these are very different things. This is a what you would call a false equivalency. The danger of empowering the AQCC was over the entire economy. The insurance commissioner's powers relate to protecting consumers with insurance. The insurance commissioner does not regulate your car emissions. It does not regulate factory emissions. It simply regulates insurance and looks up for consumers to fight against big insurance companies and to help provide downward pressure on costs of medical care. So I wouldn't support giving the insurance commissioner the power to oversee our utilities any more than I would support giving the AQCC the ability to oversee our utilities. That belongs to the Public Utilities Commission, which has a threefold mandate. Yes, of course, air quality and emissions, but also reliability and also rates. And that's where it belongs. It doesn't belong with an entity like the AQCC that only looks at one of those three things. It doesn't belong with an insurance commissioner that doesn't, nor should they, have anything to do with air quality.
Other questions?
If he's going to jump in, I'll jump in. Governor, a number of agricultural organizations have come out very strongly early on the farm workers bill. I want to know what your take is on that.
Well, I would say, si se puede. It's really exciting that many of our hardest working Coloradans that put food on their table will be able to support themselves and their families with dignity. I'm very happy that many amendments were made during the process that make this workable for our producers, for our ag community, and I really look forward to this helping to take Colorado into the next generation of rural economic prosperity with our strong agricultural economy.
Governor, will you sign House Bill 1317, the marijuana regulation bill, and why or why not?
Well, so we're not getting into here what we're signing and not signing. What I'm generally saying on every bill is something that we probably give you if you ask about a particular bill, and I'm paraphrasing it now. But we have an analysis presented to me on every bill. It's a legal analysis, a policy analysis, and a fiscal analysis. We then make a decision accordingly, and certainly will notify you. It's certainly fair to say that bills that we were supportive of during the process would be expected to sign, but there's hundreds of bills, and so certainly I look forward to evaluating those over the next few weeks.
Governor, Senate Bill 200, House Bill 1266, a lot of Senate Bill 200 was folded in 1266, a lot of the aspects I think that you can't give the AQCC still a lot of power to oversee three big industries or sectors in Colorado. Are you okay with where that bill ended up? Do you feel like you lost on you took that, or you get what you wanted?
Yeah, we got what we, first of all, let's talk about what we always supported. I've always been a supporter of CDPHE having more ability to do environmental justice work. And so that was part of that original effort. It was also part of the other bill. Figuring out exactly how to do that and how the board and commission and ombudsman were defined was a good process. We always have been nothing but supportive of that. The part that we are not supportive of is we don't view AQCC as the central authority on carbon emissions in our economy. We view that as a joint responsibility. We view it as a joint responsibility on the executive side with the CO, GCC, and PUC. And frankly, we view it as a joint responsibility with policymakers and the legislature, included on the investment side. So it's something that we do together. We lead on climate. We don't just go tell one now more famous, but still somewhat backroom committee that they're in charge of everything. So we got most of that out of the bill. We're happy with where it is. They no longer will oversee the utility side, other than to sign off on what the PUC does. They won't oversee transportation, nor should they, nor can they possibly. And we're certainly comfortable with the authority they have, which was similar to the authority they did have, in that we had planned on a rulemaking process around industrial sites anyway, and in consultation with the COGCC, the oil and gas industry was well aware, and whoever was on board, whoever wasn't, but generally accepting of the fact that they would have 60% emission reductions from the extraction sector in the next 9 years. That was our policy before this. This just puts this in the statute.
Jesse?
We always talk during these events about things that y'all got done and things that you were successful at. Governor specifically, we haven't heard from you yet on this. I wonder if there's anything that the legislature fell short on that you wish hadn't accomplished this session that maybe you want to push down the road.
Well, this was an incredibly productive session. Again, solving the big issue on transportation. We're going to fix our roads, providing relief for Coloradans who are struggling with increased cost of living by lowering costs across so many sectors. There's a lot of great work to celebrate. I think the process around how Colorado uses these one-time funds for transformational change is an exciting one that I think appropriately so, the legislature said, let's think about for a few months, and let's think about how we utilize $400 to $500 million to make housing more affordable in our state. How do we use $400 to $500 million to revolutionize behavioral health and reduce substance abuse and help people in need? How do we use several months to form a plan to invest $200 million in workforce readiness and preparation? And we'll look forward to continuing that discussion with them.
Governor, one more for you. You said before the session that you wanted something done about business personal property tax. It clearly was. Is this it, or do you want more done now that you've gotten that exemption up to $50,000?
Well, this is a great step. I mean, it's tens of thousands of small businesses that won't even have to file or pay a small business personal property tax. We absolutely would be willing to continue that discussion with the legislature about whether that threshold could be raised further. But this is a great step, and I think the legislature and Mike Weissman and Lisa Rhoda, the leadership, they absolutely deserve a victory lap on helping reduce paperwork and tax liability for tens of thousands of small companies in Colorado.
Last question? Well, nobody else wants to ask one. I got a million of them. Governor, you said that
Do we have any for our legislative leaders here?
We heard from them yesterday.
Oh, well, that's okay. No wonder I'm getting grilled here. Okay. Go ahead. You already heard from them.
You said, the first thing that you said was that the roads are finally going to get fixed.
Yes.
But more than half of the money in Senate Bill 260 doesn't go for roads and bridges, it goes for climate issues.
78% goes to roads. We're happy to refute that talking point you have, and we'll get you that. That includes the local share that goes to roads, but it's 78%. We knew that might be coming, so I have a document from CDOT on that. And you're absolutely right, that there is more than roads to transit. So we also, with that other 22%, transit, multimodal, improving air quality that we all breathe, but 78%, more than 3/4, goes to roads and bridges.
Well, let me finish my question.
Sure.
Is there more that can be done? This makes a nice down payment on it, but it's nowhere near what they need. Where do we go from here?
Well, I call upon United States Congress, Republicans and Democrats, to work with President Biden on a national infrastructure plan. I think that combined with what the legislature put together, any plan that is, even between the sort of Republican proposal and Biden's proposal, anywhere in the middle there, would absolutely meet Colorado's needs, coupled with what our state legislature did. So we still need action federally. The size of it is less important than the fact that they do it. And wherever it winds up, in any of those numbers that we've seen from the bipartisan group, from the Biden administration, it would meet Colorado's needs.
What if Congress doesn't come up with something though? Because right now this infrastructure doesn't seem to be moving.
I'm confident that there's common ground. I mean, you have a sufficient number of even Republicans that are out with a certain number. I'd have to look at the latest negotiations. Mariana Washington was my old job, not my new job, but I seem to recall that they were somewhere around 800-900 billion, and the Democrats were at $3 trillion, and I mean somewhere in between there. I think they're going to agree. I don't know whether it's going to be a $1 trillion package or a $2 or $2.5. But I think what we set Colorado up for is success with whatever they do. I do think that Congress will get something done in this area, and I think that will help fully meet our needs here in Colorado, coupled with what the state accomplished. I just have one more thing on that. We needed this bill to be able to be able to successfully compete and maximize our funds under what the federal government does. Because under any of those proposals, there's some formulaic funds we're going to get, but then there's also matching funds. And Colorado would have been very poorly placed without this bill to be able to attract matching funds to our state. Now we'll be able to compete with other states that have more robust funding for transportation and infrastructure. I want to thank the General Assembly. I want to thank Speaker Garnett, President Garcia, Leader Fenberg, who's my state senator, Representative Escar, and all of the members of the General Assembly, Republicans and Democrats, for their diligent work, their hard work, their productive work in extraordinary times, and I want to celebrate the success of this session of the General Assembly.